Good morning. This is Mike Lepore, owner and educator at The Talking Camera, and this is The Morning Cup, a show where we talk about coffee, cameras, and creativity. This show is sponsored by Recess Coffee, and today we'll be talking with Ray Alvarez, a photographer educator in now Orlando, Florida, and we're going to be talking about the transition of moving from one state to another and how to keep your business successful. So without further ado, Ray Alvarez, everybody. Ray, how's it going?
Hey Mike, how's it going, man?
I'm doing fantastic. So why don't you do real quick, rapid fire? Let's talk about you super fast. I'll give you 5 questions, 30 seconds each. So, where were you located 2 years ago?
2 years ago, I was in a small town called Binghamton in upstate New York.
And you and your wife are owners and operators of your own business, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And now, where are you located?
I'm located in Orlando, Florida.
All right. So, why did you decide to get up and move from Binghamton, the luscious town of Binghamton, to Orlando, Florida?
Long story short, we wanted to pursue more business, grow our businesses to a higher level. And I just felt like things got a little bit stagnant in Binghamton, in upstate New York, and we just wanted to see more. Plus, warm weather. Why not?
Uh, Listen, I would die for some warm weather right
Yeah,
now. Although we're getting there.
yeah,
We had a snowstorm very recently. Not so
yeah. I
great.
heard. I don't miss it.
You don't miss the snowstorms? I don't blame you.
No, as soon as
So,
I'm done here, I'm gonna go out there and enjoy the weather.
So when you decided to move, like you and your wife are sole operators of your own business. Your wife does makeup, you do photo, video. What were the fears in your head when you decide, let's go to Florida?
With any big decision like that, failure is like your number one fear, always. Failure, opening up a new business, failure in being somewhere new, where nobody knows you, nobody knows who you are, your business model or your practices, and your brand. So yeah, failure was number one.
I mean, I can only imagine because it's not one person, it's two. So
Yes,
you have two people, and it's not just you and Kay. You have a family too.
we
Like
have family.
it's a big move for you guys. So how much time did it take for you to decide we're moving? Because it kind of felt like one day you're just like, later guys, we're going to Florida.
Gotcha. The process was a long process, quite honestly. Not a lot of people knew what we were up to. This has been in the making for about 2 to 3 years now. I started a subchapter of my business, Ray Alvarez Photography LLC, in Florida, marketing a lot in the Miami district. And little by little, I kind of got a little bit more, enticed with the idea of being in the tropics. And little by little, we were like, you know what? I really want to shoot weddings in Florida. I rather warm weather instead of traveling all the time, and things like that kind of led to that point. And so yeah, so it was like a 2 to 3 year in the making, and we made it happen last minute when we came back in December and to visit and finalize our decision.
Gotcha. Wow. So now, were you marketing just Ray Alvarez, or were you also marketing your wife's makeup company too?
Just Ray Alvarez at the time, and it was a different brand, which that brand no longer exists. We set that up to kind of film that um, and promote that. However, basically, the brand we kind of just let it go and continued with Weddings by Ray here in Florida now.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you mentioned marketing. What does that marketing look like? Because you said you started marketing 3 years, 2 years ahead of
Right.
time.
Yes.
So what does that look like? Is it Facebook, Google? Are you going into groups? What kind of network is it?
So in the beginning, about 2 to 3 years ago, we started marketing with Facebook, and then we also sadly spent money on the Knot and Wedding Wire for that brand,
Hmm.
which led to some clients here and there. But once we moved down here, we cut that off immediately. I'm not a big fan of the Knot or Wedding Wire. That's another story.
Okay.
Uh, Yeah, but yeah, after that, Facebook, Instagram, and is pretty much where we post our stuff, our work, and helps us a lot in finding new clientele.
All right. So, what would you say? Because you did say you spent a couple dollars on Facebook ads. What would be a good target for someone who's planning a move that they should budget for?
When it comes to advertising, it can get really expensive really quickly. So you have to be very careful as to how you target and things like that. But in targeting, that's a tough, question only
Mm-hmm.
because, for example, where I am in Orlando, this is a touristic city. There's a lot of tourism here, and a lot of people come down here to get married, destination wedding style, or even Disney. Disney's a big deal around here. So you have to target. You have to figure out whether or not you want to target the people who are coming in to get married, or the locals who live here and want to get married.
Gotcha. So you really need to do a little bit of research on the area first and
Yeah.
decide, am I going to continue with the current demographic that I have been shooting, or
Right.
do I need to adjust to a different type of client?
Kind of a 50-50, a little bit of both sides. The clientele here is completely different to upstate New York.
Right.
The wedding process, everything is completely different to it.
Right, because upstate, we have weddings on the weekend during, spring, summer, fall, but in Florida, it's every day of the week.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
completely
opposite
reversed.
season.
Oh yeah, it's reversed completely. So the seasons here are from August, well, late August, all the way to now to March.
Wow.
Is when wedding season is like very very fruitful. But other than that, after that, it dies down a little bit, and then award season picks up, and other events and things like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, you pretty much can work a wedding here any day of the week.
That's crazy.
Hmm.
So let's talk about Binghamton real quick, because
Sure.
Binghamton is in the top 10, I think, of poorest cities in America.
Right. I did
And
see that.
you made a killing in Binghamton. Like, let's be honest, you crushed it.
Thank you.
How
I
how has your pricing changed since moving to Florida?
I would say that for now, or actually in the beginning, it was pretty up to par. It was similar to what I was doing in Binghamton, only because being a new cat here, you kind of have to sell yourself and pretty much put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
and gain that clientele, gain that trust from people. Referrals will always be your best friend when it comes to succeeding and when it comes to growing your business. So after a little bit of time, my rates have gone up, my prices have changed for that reason because I am growing and I'm getting to a place where I want to be. So yeah, so the price has gone up ever since we moved here.
I mean, I think that's what everyone's dream is. We'll find a place to move to where I can do better, charge more, and grow. And I know not everyone has that opportunity. They might be moving with their spouse and going to an area that might not be as fruitful. But I'll tell you what, getting out of one of the top 10 poorest places, I can only imagine how much growth and opportunities you're having now and
I'm
how
excited for
how
it.
nice that is. I'm glad
I'm
you're
very
excited.
excited.
I'm happy and excited for you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the connections you briefly spoke about. What type of connections have helped you establish yourself in Orlando? Are you going to local PPA groups? Are you presenting at certain places? What type of outward networking besides online marketing are you doing locally?
In the beginning and still to this day, you're gonna see me everywhere. Networking is big. A lot of people don't believe in that, but that is a major asset to your business. You have to network. You have to talk to people. You have to talk to everybody. I'm very introverted. Not a lot of people know that, but
Mm-hmm.
I've become an extroverted individual due to my business, due to the nature of my work. But you're gonna see me, like you said, at PPA meetings. There's a company out here called Wedding Venue Map. So it's a meeting between wedding venue owners, vendors, all wedding vendors, not the clients, not the bride and groom, not the couples. And why? Why is that good? Because you get to network with these vendors and become friends with them and get their trust. And once that's done and established, then you can grow from there together. You're gonna see me at commerce, chambers of commerce events, meetings, things like that. So pretty much networking anywhere you can be, handing out business cards, spreading your information would definitely help a lot, and it
Anywhere
has
and
helped me.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So let's change gears just a little bit and talk about the struggles of moving, because you did
Yeah.
start over. You had a studio in Syracuse. Do you
Yeah.
still have a studio in Orlando? How does all that go into play? What's the leasing like? What's different?
There's a lot of differences. For example, here in Orlando, as of today, I still don't have a studio here, and that's completely fine. I've learned that for now, I don't necessarily need a studio. There's a lot of studios you can rent here. So many studios with different ideas, different themes, different decorations that you can use. So I rent for now. So whenever I need a whenever I need a studio that I need to shoot in, I'll just rent the studio out depending on what I need to do. It also depends on my client's location. Everything here is literally within 20 to 30 minutes away. So if my client is on another side of the city, then I'll pick a studio that works for them and is closer to them because I want to provide an experience for my client. Um, Now, in terms of other studios, you can go on websites that let you rent space.
Mm-hmm.
And, like in Syracuse, I have my own place, but at times I felt like renting it too. So as of right now, I struggle a little bit with not having my own place where I can just leave everything there, just set up and work. So I have to pack my car. I have to go set up, break down, and all of that. It can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but actually, it's a little bit fun. It's all part of the process, and it
Right.
just keeps going.
That's cool.
Hmm.
Now, your wife did establish a brick and mortar and switched her
Yes.
brand up a little bit. So I think what we talked about prior to this interview with that is really interesting because the leasing was different. How does that process work? Because in New York, they're like, this place is for rent and you just sign paperwork and you're good to go.
Yeah.
What's it like in Florida?
It's really different. There's a really big process here. In New York, you go, you talk to the owner of the place. He's like, yeah, just sign this paper, give me some money, and we're done. Here, it's completely different. You have to go through a real estate agent. That's why realty here is big. You have to get a realty agent for the owner, and then also for the buyer or the renter. Once you go to the agent, they'll go and seek a location for you based on the terms that you've given them, the amount of money you want to spend, the amount of space. It's always hot here, so AC is a big plus,
Mm-hmm.
and actually a must-have. Some places don't have it. A lot of warehouse locations don't have AC, so you have to pay extra for that.
Wow.
So there's camp fees, there's maintenance fees, there's different things like that that you have to pay for a brick and mortar location.
Wow. That's just so much goes into it. And it's crazy to think that here in upstate, it's really pretty easy. Most of the time, I don't have to run my heat or air conditioning.
Yeah.
All those expenses add up, but that's why the cost of living and the amount you can charge just changes.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
let's talk about some failed things that have happened in your transition, because
Sure.
everyone's expecting things to go wrong. So
Right.
what's something that our audience should hear that has gone wrong for you that might help them when they transition and move into a new location?
Sure. Things will get hard, financially. We're a family too. My wife and I, Kay and I, we have kids. Sometimes financially you struggle, and it's not all sugar and gravy once you get down here. When we got down here, we had to live on a tight budget. Obviously, not a lot of spending. Can't go out to eat. There's an expression out there, where it says you're not going to enjoy fun and gratitude in a long time for a short while, only because you're building your success. And then that's how we lived for a few months. We still kind of live like that, not too much. We try to budget here and there, but at the same time, we want to, be fruitful. We want to succeed. We want to have, we both, Kay has this objective that she wants to accomplish $1 million in about 2 years.
Wow.
So I
Good
think
for
she's working
her.
on that. And we're trying our best. So it's all about budgeting. Be strong on yourself. Be strong mentally and physically, because a move like this is not easy. I don't want to make it seem like it was just, hey, we got here from point A to point B and we made it happen. It's not like that. Every day is a grind. Every day is a hustle.
Right. I don't know the reference sugar and gravy. That's a little new to me.
I had to add that. I don't know.
I've
I
never
don't
heard
remember.
that
I
before.
don't remember the expression word for word, but it's something like that. It's like, live boring or something like that for now for a little while until you can get on your feet.
Well, I do like sugar in my coffee, and I'm going to bring it
Yes.
back to my sponsors, Recess Coffee. I'm drinking Ethiopian light roast today. Um, Ray has the espresso blend. Do
It's really
you
good.
miss the coffee from New York?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, there's a few places I like.
I, I've had a hard time traveling and finding good coffee that I like, and I'm glad that I have
Yeah.
Recess where I can just pack some and take it with me now.
I agree.
So,
This is pretty good. This is my first time having recess, and I'm so glad that they were able to send me a pack here all
right,
the way to Orlando, Florida. It's really good. I like it.
it's so good. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
So, what are some what are some hindsight things that you wish you thought of before moving down to Florida that really stick in your head is this is what I should have done, and don't forget to do this if you're going to move.
That's a good question. More planning, I guess, more research. And, I was a little naive in terms of the move, like, all right, let's do this now. Finally, let's finally do this. I guess I wasn't prepared yet in terms of just picking up the business and putting it down here and going from there. Um, because you don't know truly what the market is like until you live in the market. Unless you move and put yourself in the market and try things out and meet people, you won't really know until you live there. So that was a little tough for me in the beginning. I'm getting to know some great people now. I am developing a team here as well, the same that I had in New York. So things like that, I would watch out for if I'm moving, and yeah.
Word. That's
Hmm.
that's good advice, and I think a lot of people just get up and go. And I have to imagine that you had some self doubt moments during that first year because a lot of us, we have doubts in our own creativity now. What was that like with, all that fear, all that stuff of moving? What was that? How did you get through moments of self defeating?
I got to give that to my wife. She's a great support. She's my backbone, my right hand woman. Sometimes we just have each other. And I think a lot of the times too, like I reached out to friends back in New York, like you. I talk to you sometimes and other friends as well, and just talk about it. Just talk about what's going on, how you feel, share the experiences that I've had down here so far, and compare them to New York, and just remember where I came from, like you said earlier, where I came from, what I did up there, and what I'm going to do down here. So, just rely on the support of your friends and family.
Right. So let's talk about family briefly and talk about the fact that you got up, you moved, you had to hustle hard.
Oh yeah,
And it
oh yeah,
wasn't just you, but it was your wife too. You both were
yeah.
starting over, you have a family. How did you create a balance for work to family life in such a chaotic hustle mode?
Well, I also have to thank my oldest daughter. She's been very helpful throughout this whole and this whole transition. My wife and I, we come up with these plans throughout the week, and it's like we live in a movie. We live on a set life. Like, kid you not, we wake up and it's hustle bustle. You're someone's going somewhere. I'm going somewhere. We're working. What about this time? What are we gonna have for dinner today? Who's gonna cook today? Who's gonna clean today? We have a big household. We have to clean all the time. We have to cook, we have to eat, and we have to work. It was just something that, honestly, I hate to say it this way, we just winged it. And till this day, things have settled down. Things are, finally calming down. I believe in work smarter, not harder. Don't burn yourself out. Don't just fulfill your whole calendar and never have time for yourself or for your family.
Right? Yeah, that's so important.
That's very important.
So important. And that's one of my fears. I've always wanted to move. I don't see that's in my future, but making sure that I have time for my family has always been huge on my top priorities because as you know as a photographer, we don't have normal business hours.
We don't.
It's and sometimes we miss out on those moments. So I like to schedule time for me and my family because money comes and goes.
It does.
But those moments with my kids, those mean everything to me.
That's to add to that as well. Something you had asked me earlier. With the whole reversal, I get to spend my summers with my kids now. Because wedding season is pretty slow here in the summertime. So now I have that time with my kids.
All right.
Yeah.
And they have school off.
They
It's
have school off. Hmm.
it's just hotter than Satan's asshole out.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to get married in that unless you're doing an indoor wedding, which happens. I mean, this is slow season, but you're still getting wet.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what are some future goals for Shoot with Ray, and where is your company moving?
Um, for the wedding aspect of the business, I'm slowing down my shooting. So developing a team means that I get to send trusted partners and associates out to weddings, and of course the couples know this. And I want to work less. I want to work less, do less weddings, have my team cover more weddings. And with a business mindset, just raise that income to a higher level as the plan originally was. And basically, for the shoot with Ray aspect, I was doing a lot of beauty and fashion work upstate New York. Now I'm limiting myself with the clientele. I'm doing more beauty with makeup and beauty brands and more commercial work, which the commercial work here is fantastic. It's so busy here, and I enjoy it, honestly. Headshots, corporate work, and things like that.
Right? Because
Hmm.
it's not sitting at a computer forever,
Right.
going through hundreds of photos, but you do have a really nice resource that's helping you. I'm actually going to be interviewing him next. His name's Justin from Aftershoot. Why,
Yes.
why don't you give him a quick shout out?
Hey, Justin.
Because how much time saving is
Oh
that?
my
Just
God.
done.
Aftershoot has been an amazing, amazing asset to my business personally. Aftershoot, just to give you a quick intro to it, is a culling software, and they just released the beta part of it where it can edit your photos. AI is editing my photos, believe it or not. Culling for me, for example, for an 8-hour wedding, culling that would take about 2 to 3 hours. Now with Aftershoot, I import them into my Aftershoot program, press a button, and it's done in 25 minutes for an 8-hour wedding.
That's amazing.
Uh,
Now, is
keep
it is it working the same for your commercial stuff too? Are you utilizing it yet?
For the smaller shoots, like the headshots, when it's like 2 to 3 individuals, I'm not using it just yet. However, for corporate events where you're covering a reception or an award ceremony, yeah, you can use that as well. Pretty much, it tries to locate duplicate photos and gets rid of the most blurriest one and kind of picks out the sharpest one, especially if you have repeat shots. It looks for anything that's just out of exposure or just doesn't look like it's an actual photo. So yeah, it does help with
Right.
events.
And that has to help add to your family time because
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
you're not behind the computer as much as you used to be and you're
Yes.
having that which must have helped during this transition, especially now with the editing. You're going to
Oh,
have a whole
great.
bunch of extra time. All right. So I have two more questions for you. What are
Sure.
some legal obstacles that you have found with the transition from New York to Florida? Were there any? Did what should we expect when we move? And like did you rewrite your whole entire contract, make sure it was Florida ready?
That's a good question. So first and foremost, before I moved down here, I made sure that legally Ray Alvarez Photography was able to operate here in Florida. You start with sunbiz.org, sunbiz.com, something like that. And you go to that website, you incorporate yourself, you start up an LLC or an S corp. After that, you get your paperwork, you get your tax ID, and then you have to basically register yourself with a business tax receipt here in the city of Orlando, so that way you can operate. For me, I'm a mobile operator because I'm moving from place to place. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a place where I sit down and work. So I have a mobile operator's business license.
Gotcha.
So legally, that's the process you have to take here. Yes, I did also have an attorney review my contracts here, just to make sure, like you said, that they are Florida already.
Right. I just want to make sure that people remember to look into that stuff because every single state is slightly different. And if you don't
Yes.
look at that, something might bite you in the ass. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
So, last question. How do people get a hold of you? I know you're speaking at not after shoot,
Shutterfest.
Shutterfest
Yes.
coming up in a week or two. That's probably when this is going to air is while you're at Shutterfest. So, how do
Awesome.
people get a hold of you? Dial into your education.
Sure.
Give us all that information.
Right. So for my educational stuff, you can always find that on my website, shootwithray.com. You can find my beauty work and commercial work there as well. And anything that's wedding related, you can always find that at weddingsbyray.com. And those names are on every social platform. So Weddings by Ray and Shoot with Ray.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ray, for taking the time and speaking on something so important
Of course.
of this topic. And I really appreciate you and your time. You have a great rest of your morning.
You too, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for having me, man. Cheers.